Hey everyone. I tied the knot at 22 with a girl I went to school with, and soon after, we welcomed a daughter into our lives. My family wasn't too keen on her at first, but eventually they accepted our situation and settled down. In those early years, my mom and my wife clashed a couple of times, and I found myself in the middle, trying to keep the peace. Both of them felt like I was taking sides and ended up feeling hurt. Money was tight since we were both in a city that wasn't home for either of us, and neither of our families were wealthy. So I had to put in a lot of effort, working late at my job, then picking up extra work at night. I did my best to help my wife with our child, even if I didn't always feel like it. After work, I'd take the baby out for walks for a couple of hours, while my wife managed cooking and cleaning at home. I truly appreciate her for that. But after a couple of years, fatigue set in. I was working constantly. She was on maternity leave, and we struggled financially. We took out a loan to buy a place, but ended up as defrauded shareholders. That's when my wife started to think I was hiding money from her. She even consulted a fortune teller who claimed I had a mistress and was spending money on her. Things got heated, and my wife told me to leave. I tried to calm her down, but it didn't help. We spent 2 months apart. During the first month, I wanted her back, but by the second month, I was resigned to whatever happened. Eventually, she reached out, suggesting we talk and reconcile. Naturally, I was relieved to return to her and our daughter. Life resumed its usual grind, work and home. I was taking on more side jobs, and though I was exhausted, I didn't give my relationship the attention it deserved. Then I landed a high-paying job, and we decided to take out a mortgage, along with various contracts from other organizations. I was making decent money, but I sensed a growing distance between us. We bought an apartment and renovated it. More expenses, of course. I dove back into my work, and the renovations brought us a bit closer. But then it was always something else that needed attention. Vacations abroad, trips to the coast, but with high expectations. Believe it or not, I was grinding away, but it felt like she wasn't satisfied. Friends seemed to have it all together, while I felt like I was falling short. For 10 years, I remained faithful, avoided drinking, and kept my head down. My main goal was to provide for my girls, but I noticed I wasn't showing enough affection. Whenever I tried to be tender, my wife would brush me off, saying things like, "Just leave me alone," or "What's wrong with you?" Eventually, I convinced myself that she didn't need my affection. I'm not overly expressive, though I'm kind-hearted. Still, I worried that I couldn't demonstrate my tenderness. She didn't reciprocate either. Our intimate moments became infrequent, and at times, I felt like I was climbing the walls. My last project turned out to be quite lucrative, but that's when we had another argument. She wanted more of my time, and I told her patience was key. Well, in 3 months, I'll have everything sorted out, and I plan to leave behind all my side projects so we can be together. We'll start fresh. I was under a lot of stress during this project, and it led to a stroke when I was just 30. Things took a turn for the worse. I started walking unsteadily, vomited for 3 months, and lost 25 kilograms. My mom stayed by my side at the hospital, and my wife visited, giving me an hour each day, which was unusual for her. I managed to work from home for 3 days and spent 1 day in the hospital. Despite everything, the project got finished. Then, depression kicked in, and I started treatment, as my stroke was severe. The doctors weren't optimistic, so I began searching for ways to recover on my own. They recommended sanatoriums. Throughout this time, my wife was focused on herself. I told her I wanted to go to a sanatorium with her, but she insisted we should go to the sea instead, claiming I'd feel better there and that our child needed it. I tried to explain my situation, but she wouldn't hear it. Honestly, she went to the beach with our daughter and her mother-in-law, while I went to my parents because I was struggling and scared. While I was there, I had another attack. But thankfully, everything turned out okay. After 3 months, she told me she had stopped loving me. I could feel I was on the brink of giving up. I started treatment, hoping she'd reconsider. We managed to hold on for another 6 months. During that time, I had surgery, and I discovered she had been corresponding with an old friend, confessing her feelings to him. But he turned her down. I also found out she had been in touch with a guy she liked before we got together. She wrote that he was the love of her life, and that I was just a mistake. There was a huge fight, and I decided to leave everything behind for our daughter. It turned out I was living off her and her mom. Now, a year has passed. She's been in a new relationship for the last 6 months. We bumped into each other at a bar. I'm living alone, renting an apartment, working hard, and doing my best to recover. I still have bouts of depression. It's exhausting. The memories linger, and I know I messed up. I realize I still have feelings for her. On top of that, she constantly accuses me of not appreciating her, of not being affectionate and gentle. But when I was tender, she pushed me away. Now she's with someone who is. She's transformed a lot, becoming more active, the life of the party, making new friends at the bar. She's like a new woman. And of course, there's the fortune teller who advised her to distance herself from me. I can be a pretty angry person. When we split, I said some hurtful things to her, which is true. The funny part is, a couple of years before my stroke, I'd often ask her, if something were to happen to me, would you stay? She always said she would. Now she claims, would you want me to stay out of pity? It's not worth sacrificing yourself for your family if they won't appreciate it. We should be more mindful of our partners. Sensitive individuals, and those facing difficulties, often reveal their true selves. Clearly, she's not the right woman for me. Regarding our daughter, I might be jumping the gun here, but I anticipate questions like, did I abandon her without providing support? No, I'm paying my share, and I didn't take anything with me. We continue to meet and communicate, and contrary to what you might think, I'm not drinking these days. Honestly, I'm neutral about alcohol. In my relatively short life, I can count on one hand the number of times I've had strong alcohol. 3 times total, once at 21, again at 27, and once more at 29. I'm not a fan of beer at all, though I might enjoy a bit of wine when I'm out with friends. By the way, I've never smoked or tried any illicit substances. After my stroke, my ex-wife began drinking beer and champagne more frequently. She claimed it was my fault, saying it helped her relax, and she often urged me to join her. After the divorce, she told me, I'm grateful you didn't drink or cheat. It's just that after a decade together, I came to realize we weren't meant to be, and my health issues were merely coincidental. On a brighter note, my daughter is doing well. She loves me and is worried about our situation. She's only 10 and will be here in a month. The phrase about her mom and her mom's mother-in-law is a nod to family dynamics. I've left my share of the apartment to my daughter. What my ex-wife chooses to do with it is her concern. I have no intention of abandoning my daughter. My focus is on getting better. I'll earn my own apartment back. I'm sharing all of this because sometimes the weight of it all gets to me. It hurts, and I feel the pain. But giving up isn't an option. I also recognize my part in what happened. If my ex sends my daughter to me, I'll welcome it wholeheartedly. I'm determined to get back on my feet, and having my daughter around will only motivate me further. Call me naive if you want, but I was naive with my wife. I've played this scenario out in my head, and I truly believe that if things had turned out differently, I would have emerged victorious in my own right. By the way, she and her new partner aren't living together yet. As for her lifestyle, many of our mutual acquaintances regard her quite favorably. She tries hard to put on a good front. My daughter seems to be mostly unaware or doesn't show much concern. At least she's been positively influenced. I understand that my former friends and her new acquaintances will have their own takes on this. She's expressed to me that she feels like I abandoned her after a decade of marriage, leaving her with our child.